The media would have you believe that a government shutdown is imminent, and depending on which side of the aisle you are on, you'll hear each other blame the other side. But the public seems to be catching on that it might be just the Democrat Party here in the never-ending quest of doing what the opposite of Donald Trump wants to do as the real problem here. No matter what Donald Trump wants to do, the Democrat Party is the opposite of that. If he wanted you to be able to breathe air, they'd say that's fascist. And so the blame game doesn't seem to be going too well for the Democrat Party. And not that it really matters, by the way. If all Republicans do vote in unison, there really isn't much that the Democrat Party can actually do to stop the government from continuing with this new continuing resolution that they have on the docket. But with the margins narrow, anything could happen, and so the uncertainty has been used by the DNC as a way to try and divide and conquer the Republicans. The latest scam in all of this that the Democrats have come up with is begging for a revote. They claim that they need more time to review the 6-month continuing resolution, and if and only if they get a 30-day extension, they might then just vote for the 6-month CR, which of course is just a silly little lie that anyone with half a brain would see right through. The obvious truth here is that the Democrat Party just wants to buy more time to find a way to change public perception, which is not going their way. And they want this time so that they can get a shutdown and blame Republicans like they've done in the past. But you see, my friends, the Democrat Party's attempt to pin the shutdown on the Republicans really isn't gaining traction anywhere that you look. Instead, the cry of "shut down Schumer" is picking up steam online. Social media public perception has decidedly shifted away from the Democrat Party, which is an ominous omen for the Democrats. All their tired, boring, old repeat of the same fear-mongering that the Democrat Party has always done just isn't cutting it this time. Even worse for the Democrat Party here is that polling trends tend to show us that shutdown blame is typically applied to the minority party when the majority has a clear plan of action. And the Republicans have that in spades. This simple, clean, continuing resolution bill is extraordinarily easy to comprehend. Essentially, what this CR does for 6 months is keep all federal agencies funded at current existing levels. There's no new spending hikes, and there are no cuts. And of course, it also will avoid the shutdown past the March 14th deadline. And it covers critical areas like veterans healthcare, which addresses the $12 billion shortfall, and FEMA disaster relief. However, it doesn't include any additional monies that the Democrat Party wants to give it. And the reason why the Democrat Party doesn't like this is it gives the incoming Trump administration breathing room to shape their agenda, which is the real reason why they are so dead set against this bill passing. So, in essence, this CR, this continuing resolution, has no major policies added to it. There are no big changes. It's just a hold the line, keep things paid as they are until the next big bill comes in. And so the Democrat Party has been trying to thwart this. But with all the whining and all the moaning, nothing that they do here is seeming to stick. The fear tactics aren't working. The public isn't scared. In fact, I'd say they're more annoyed than anything else. And so, I believe despite all the protesting, all the whining, all the noise that the Democrats have been doing, in the end, I think they're going to just cave and do so in a way that tries to appear to save face. Mostly. To back this up, let's dive into an article from The Hill. This is titled, "Democrats Look to Save Face in the Shutdown Battle." Oh no, this was posted earlier this morning. This is by Alexander Bolton. He writes, Senate Democrats say privately that they will not allow the government to shut down Saturday. Despite growing pressure from activists and liberal lawmakers who want them to kill a GOP-crafted 6-month stopgap spending bill. Senate Democrat sources say Democrat leader Chuck U. Schumer is giving plenty of room to centrists in his caucus to vote for the House-passed continuing resolution if doing so is the only way to avoid a government shutdown at week's end. And one Democrat senator familiar with internal deliberations said Senate Democrats will ultimately vote to keep the government open, despite the rumblings of liberals within their caucus who are heaping scorn on the House-passed funding bill. Still, Alexander writes, the private assurances don't rule out the possibility that something unexpected could happen to change the political calculus. Schumer on Wednesday said Democrats would insist on voting on a month-long CR, which isn't going to happen, to give congressional negotiators more time to reach a deal on an omnibus spending package, meaning they want to cram the clean CR with a bunch of garbage that the Republicans wouldn't want and would make them look bad in signing. But Democrats familiar with internal deliberations say that maneuver is designed to save face. Big surprise. They say that the Democrat leader is giving members of his caucus space to vote how they see fit on the House-passed bill, recognizing it's probably the only way to avoid a shutdown. Now, so far, Senator John Fetterman, Democrat, has been the most outspoken Democrat senator about the need to avoid a shutdown. This doesn't look good for them. You already have one who's outspoken against this. Uh-oh. It's crazy that Fetterman is probably the most reasonable Democrat right now. He said, now it is a CR that we all agree we don't like, but for me, we can't ever allow the government to shut down, he told CNN Wednesday, echoing comments he made earlier in the week. If you shut it down, you will impact and hurt millions and millions and millions of Americans, and you run the risk of slipping us into a recession. And other moderates, including Senator Mark Kelly, Democrat, and John Hickenlooper of Colorado, also Democrat, are warning of the devastating consequences of a shutdown. Yeah, you already have 3 senators here that are signaling that they want to vote for this bill. I just don't see how this doesn't get done. Let's see. The president has shown a willingness to cut far and wide, really on impulse in many cases. If you shut down, he decides what is essential. Trump is the one who decides which arms of government continue, which arms get actually shut down. In a strange way, a government shutdown gives him even more power, Hickenlooper warned. The Colorado senator told reporters that he has not made up his mind on how yet to vote. Yeah, sure he hasn't. Now, Schumer's decision to let the debate play out in the Democrat caucus has disappointed some liberals who wanted the leader to take a more confrontational stance on the GOP-written bill, which Democrats argue would cut critical services and declare it dead on arrival in the Senate. But of course, it doesn't cut anything, as we've already covered. It keeps everything funded as is. So the cut scam by the Democrats, it's just not flying with the public. People can see this. Anyway, Alexander writes, with Schumer opting not to twist arms on the upcoming government funding votes, Senator Pat Murray and Jeff Merkley, the ranking members on the Appropriations and Budget Committees, respectively, have taken the lead in advocating for a clean 30-day funding stopgap, which again is dead on arrival. Now, Schumer gave ground to liberal colleagues by announcing after the Democratic lunch that he and his colleagues would insist on a vote on this 30-day CR introduced by Murray. He vowed that Democrats would block the House-passed government funding bill unless they got a chance to vote on Murray's bill. He said Republicans chose a partisan path drafting their continuing resolution without any input from congressional Democrats. Because of that, Republicans do not have the votes in the Senate to invoke cloture on the House continuing resolution. Our caucus is unified, he claimed, on a clean April 11th CR that will keep the government open and give Congress time to negotiate bipartisan legislation that can pass, meaning, again, let's stuff your bill with a bunch of crap that nobody wants. We should vote on that. I hope our Republican colleagues will join us to avoid a shutdown on Friday. But that bill is expected to fail. And when it does, Alexander writes, at least 8 Democrats are expected to then vote for the House-passed bill, meaning the current 6-month CR, which President Trump has indicated he would sign into law. So all of this, the Hill is admitting, is just a stupid game that they're playing. They're trying to get the public behind them, but I don't think it's going to work. And finally, the Hill writes, Senate Republicans point out that the House has adjourned for the week and has no plans to return before government funding lapses March 14th, meaning that 30-day CR, there's no hope for that. They're not coming back to give the Democrats another shot. They argue that even if the Senate passes a 30-day CR, there's no clear indication the House would reconvene in the next few days to pass it. And they warn that there's not assurance that Trump would sign the Democrat-drafted measure into law, which is unlikely that he would. As one Senate Republican aide said, of the prospect of 13 Republican senators voting for a 30-day CR, I think that ship has sailed. So, the long and the short of it, my friends, if I was a betting man, I'd wager that the 6-month CR is going to pass. I'm going to give it a 90% probability and probably more. Because you have at least 8 Democrats poised already to cross over and Trump ready to sign, and the shutdown clock just a few days away, it's going to force everyone's hand. Nobody wants to be responsible for the shutdown, and the Democrats don't want to take any more losses than they need to have. Which gets me to my final point here. This is all less of a Democrat strategy on defeating Republicans that we are seeing right now with this whole attempt at a 30-day CR. Instead, this is all of a more orchestrated, managed retreat. The bloodletting that Democrats have taken since the election hasn't let up. Everything they have done has blown up in their face. The public thinks they're clowns. The party is polling at the lowest it has done in modern times, and they know this. So, I think all of this drama, you're going to see other content creators talk about it, saying, government shutdown's coming. No, I highly doubt that. I think all that we're seeing here is a choreographed surrender on this particular battlefront by the Democrat Party. That I'm fairly certain.